Welcome to Uniting the Cults. This is my second video debunking one of Mohammed Hijab's videos about atheism. So let's see.
If the next speaker on proposition, Mohammed, thank you.
Well, thank everyone for coming today. Thank you very much for coming. It's first day of Ramadan for us, and we're happy to have you. Now, I've come here, me and Abdullah, actually, we've come here to refute magic. Wait a minute, what did you say? Let me say that one more time. We've come here to refute magic. It's actually an interesting magic trick where there is no bunny. There's no hat.
Interesting thing to point out already. So he's saying a bunch of nonsense right now already. Instead of actually getting into arguments, he's having fun with words. He's trying to say that what the atheists are doing is believing in magic. But he's not, giving arguments that would convince anybody. He's just claiming it. And he's doing all this before he presents any arguments. This is all very dishonest. This is what mythologists do.
And in fact, there's no magician at all. It's the proposition that something can come from nothing. Not only from nothing, ladies and gentlemen, but from nothing and by nothing. The Quran says, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Were they created from nothing? Or were they themselves the creators of themselves? Now, we've heard Alex today.
I don't even know that verse from the Quran, but isn't it talking about people rather than the universe? I think it's talking about people. And there's nobody in their right mind claiming that we created ourselves. The best theory we have is genetic evolution. But that's not what he's arguing against here. He's talking about the creation of the universe rather than the creation of people.
For the second time I've heard him say this, he says that the universe may have come into existence from nothing. Minute 14 to 15 in his video does
that sentence, the universe may have come from nothing. May is a central word there. And I don't know what that person was saying. It needs more context. Like, first of all, it's just a fucking word in English. Our theories about physics, they're in math. The word may, how does it factor into math? That's what we would need to understand. What I think the guy meant was something I said in my previous video, which is the best theory we have right now about the early part of the universe comes from Einstein's general relativity. And in there, it's implied, as best we understand it, that the universe has been expanding. And before that, physicists thought that the universe was static, not expanding. And so that led to the idea of the Big Bang. It is now known as the Big Bang Theory. And that theory, or that implication, it's making a claim about the universe expanding. It's not making a claim about what existed or how things existed before the expansion. So if somebody says something may have happened, what I think they're saying is this idea or this event is compatible with what we know about the Big Bang. I mean, and that's no different than what happens in a murder case when, like, if you see damage to somebody's skull, and somebody asks, was this caused by a hammer, a blow to the head with a hammer? And on the other side, the lawyer, all they can say is, well, this damage is consistent with a blow to the head with a hammer, but other things could have done it too. So when this guy was saying may, that's what we're talking about here. It's like a lawyer saying, well, that damage to the head may have been caused by a blow with a hammer, a blow by a hammer.
Does the universe have a cause? He says, when the universe came into existence, it well and truly came into existence from nothing. Now, wait a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a challenge. That's an active claim. He said, I'm not here to make any active claims. Sorry.
What the fuck is an active claim versus an inactive claim? I don't know. And this motherfucker doesn't say in this whole video. By the way, I've watched a little bit further into this. He doesn't say what he means by active claim and inactive claim. Now, he is repeating what somebody else said. Okay, so maybe that guy didn't explain it either. But this motherfucker should be. He should at least be saying, I don't know what it means. Or be clearly saying that he's guessing what it means. Or just fucking ask the guy. He's right next to you.
That is an active claim. Look at the syntax of that particular sentence. You're saying the universe came into existence from nothing. Don't pretend to be passive. Oh, I don't know. No, you do know. You're making a statement. Either you know what you're saying or you don't.
So what's he saying here? Active claim means that you know something versus what? That you don't know? So an inactive claim, that makes no sense. Why would you have a claim about something you don't know? This is fucking retarded.
Tell me how the universe came into existence from nothing and by nothing, ex nihilo. I want to know. Tell me how that's possible metaphysically, ontologically, cosmologically, from first principles. Give me the answer, please. But it's interesting because in his other video, something from
the way he's talking, it's like, give me the answer, and if you don't have the answer, then that means I'm right. And that's fucking stupid. That's the same God of the gaps logic. You seek an answer for something. You don't find an answer. That means there's God.
From nothing, where he was debating the contingency argument with a fellow American or an American man. Minute 48, he says this, listen to this. He agrees with the radio guy that was speaking to him that the universe is a necessary existence. Wait a minute. What's going on here, ladies and gentlemen? What does necessary existence mean? A necessary fact is a fact that cannot be any other way. 2 + 2 = 4. That's finally going to be the case. So a necessary existence is eternal. It cannot be any other way. So wait a minute, if the universe is eternal, how could it come from nothing? Contradiction. It's a contradiction. You can't have it both.
As far as I know, there's no atheists claiming. Why are we even talking about atheists? We shouldn't be talking about atheists. This is a physics issue. We should be talking about physicists. I don't know why he's talking about atheists. He's arguing with the wrong people. You know, like, suppose you have somebody that was a Muslim and then decides, okay, I don't believe in Islam anymore and I don't believe in God anymore. That doesn't mean they all of a sudden know a whole bunch of physics. So in this sense, tons of atheists don't know anything and can't answer any of these questions. Similarly, lots of Muslims don't know anything about Islam and can't answer any questions about Islam.
Both ways, my friend, and this is what atheism leads you to. Contradictory set of propositions. Either you have your cake or you want to eat it. What are you going to do with it? Tell me now, did the universe come from nothing If so, how so? That's an active claim. Is the universe a necessary existence? If so, how so? That is an active claim. Is it eternal? Just come on, please. Don't pretend to be innocent and agnostic. Number two, you could say, no, there's a multiverse, or there's an eternal fabric, or there's an eternal universe. But a multiverse has the propensity of being any other way. And I'm sure you study philosophy, you know what you're talking about. A possible existence or a contingent existence is defined by being able to be rearranged in any other way. If it can be arranged in another way, it's not necessary. It's possible or contingent. It's not necessary. So a multiverse cannot be necessary existence because it can be arranged in another way. It can be out of existence. So wait a minute. This is very important, guys. Hold on. You agree that there should and ought to be a necessary existence. If you agree with me on that, then you're not an atheist, because the necessary existence is the Islamic definition of God. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say he is one and only.
That's retarded. He's saying the idea of the universe being a necessary existent, and his idea of what that means is couldn't have been any other way. He's saying that's what Allah means, or the definition of Allah, which is fucking stupid, because no, the definition of Allah is a lot more than that. It is all other shit in Islam. It's like 50 billion features, including all the rules.
Self-sufficient, the independent, meaning the necessary existence. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He begets not, nor is he begotten, meaning he's eternal. If you say that there's a necessary existence, you cannot say you're an atheist from an Islamic perspective. And from a philosophical one, moreover, we have to ask a question now. We're talking about Islam. So why is Islam any different from any other religion? Because Islam talks about one necessary existence, one independent, one self-sufficient, not three in one, one in three.
So, like I said from the last video, and this didn't happen in the last video, but what people like Mohammed Hijab do is, and it's not only Muslims that do this, Christians do this too. I've seen them. They say they argue against atheism, and then when they're done arguing against atheism, and what they're doing there is saying, all right, so there has to be a God that created the universe. That's a feature of God existing and created the universe. So they're ruling out the idea that there's no God that created the universe. And then once they're done there, they skip 1,000 steps and say, oh yeah, so my religion is true. Watch.
Not a triune God, not a multiplicity of gods, a plethora of gods, not a pantheism. And by the way, I have to make this clear now. It was a bit of a straw man argument, because Alex came up and says that Abdullah said that the universe has a cause. He never said that in the statement. But he
going back a sentence, you can tell what he's doing here, which is he's after, he thinks he's finished arguing against atheism. Now he's arguing that Islam is the correct version or account of God among the big religions. He's not factoring in anything else, like, for example, any other God anyone else can imagine. Things that are not the big religions. So, as an example, suppose this God theory is the case. There's a God, it created the universe, and nothing else. He does not mess with the universe afterwards, does not listen to people's prayers, does not change things to benefit good people or hurt bad people. Nothing. That theory of God, Mohammed Hijab is not arguing against. So the point is, even if Mohammed Hijab is correct about atheism being wrong, he's ignoring the infinity of possible God theories that are not Islam or Christianity or Judaism or any of the other things.
You had these written things. We never use the word cause. You can have a necessary existence. You can make an ontological argument for a necessary existence without causation at all. There's a difference between possibility and contingency on the one hand, or necessity and causation. You don't even need to, you can have it. You don't believe in causation before the universe? Fallacy of composition? Have it, no problem. You have to explain how there can be a world with only possible existences. How can there be a world with only possible existences? If you say there can't be, and we're happy to say there's a necessary existence, you're no longer an atheist from an Islamic perspective. Because you believe in an independent, self-sufficient thing that everything depends upon. And that is the ultimate explanation for all of existence. Now,
ultimate explanation for all of existence. The problem with the words he's using here. When we say we're explaining something, that means explaining how it works. The thing is, just saying that God exists doesn't explain how anything works. What explains how things work are like our physics theories. They explain the very intricate cause and effect relationships between everything. Of course, we don't get that far. We're not very good at it yet. Give us a few thousand years. We'll be a lot closer. But just saying God exists, or just having the God theory, or even if the fanciful God theories that Islam claims and that Christianity claims and Judaism claims, these things do not explain shit about the world. They might explain a couple of things, and I believe those explanations are incorrect, but the point is we're talking about what they explain or don't explain, regardless if they're correct or not. They don't explain anything. They don't address any of our questions that we ask, like in physics.
A secondary point we need to make is that Islam, the concept of God, the Tawheed, the monotheism, is something not only intuitive, but it's something, as we've seen, that can be reasoned from first principles, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why...
So that's something I agree with. If there's such a thing as a God, there'd be only one of them. Because if there's more of them, they'd be contradicting each other. But all that does is argue against multiple gods. And it doesn't say anything about Islam.
Already, when we just look at the concept of God, so many of the major world religions are ruled out. Christianity is ruled out. Hinduism is ruled out. I would say Sikhism is ruled out. Why? Because of that pure monotheism, that respectable monotheism that Islam has to offer. But in addition to that, as Abdullah alluded to, the meta-narrative of there being many prophets aforetime, many of them with the same message of Islamic monotheism, believing in one God and worshiping one God, is something which can be seen in the religious books. What Abraham said, what Moses said, what did they come and say? Even according to Old Testament literature, calling the people to monotheism. So,
what was the point of that? He didn't get to a point.
Islam also has an inbuilt system of falsification. It works in a similar way to science in many ways. 4 challenges, which I'm happy to take questions on, the questions and answer, or in the cross-examination. 1, if this book was from other than God, the Quran says about itself, there would have been many contradictions. Chapter 4, verse 92.
And there are many contradictions.
Number 2, the inimitability challenge. Try and produce something like it.
I discussed this one in one of my podcasts with Zorro. I recommend anyone who wants to learn a little bit more about these Quran challenges. I have a, a podcast with I think it's called Quran's Challenges.
And there is a quantifiable way of doing so, which we can talk about in the question and answers. Number 3, that Islam makes predictions about the future, and it specifies time and place. And this is my claim. It's the only religion to make a series of predictions about the future, none of which have not materialized.
So I talk a lot about miracle logic, and I have a video, something like how miracles work, and whether they're scientific or mythology. And I explain how they're not scientific. He's arguing against that. What I say in that video is something like, whenever you hear people talk about miracles, miracle claims, they don't talk about it in a scientific way where they do what this guy seems to be describing, which is things like, if you're going to look at a miracle claim and whether it came true, you also have to look at all the other miracle claims that religion makes. Because suppose it's only right 50% of the time. What does that mean? And then you also have to look at the miracle claims from all the other religions and non-religions. And like suppose Islam is right 50% of the time. First of all, that on its own should make people doubt. But let's suppose Christianity is right 51% of the time. Okay, so what's that mean now? These people that talk about miracles should address those issues and actually talk about them. Mohammed Hijab seems to be starting to talk about it right now. So let's see what he continues to say. Hopefully it's by the end of this video.
Whereas with anyone you want to mention who makes predictions of the future, at least some of their predictions will be falsified. And I'm willing to be tested on this. Test it. It's falsifiable. And in fact, this falsifiability is even stronger than the scientific one. Why? Because in scientific falsifiability, everything is susceptible to falsifiability. Everything that's done now, if I do a scientific experiment, now it can be falsified. But with a retrospective perspective, a hindsight perspective, if predictions have been made of the future, we can see whether those predictions are right or wrong. And we can talk about those predictions there's a book coming out called The Forbidden Prophecies by Ira.
He's just making a claim there. He didn't explain anything. One of the problems with basically every miracle claim I've ever heard is that they're vague. And vagueness means you could come up with 1,000 different interpretations of what that claim means. And there's no way to know which one was meant by the person who said it. And here's the thing. When people make such vague statements, they're oftentimes intentionally trying to be obtuse and make it difficult for anyone to figure out what they're saying. And so they didn't have a actual real meaning when they said it. It was part of their plan.
That's going to be something which details that case in detail. Now, the interesting thing is you have a nihilist, someone who does not believe in existential. He's an existential nihilist who's cosmic skeptic. He's an existential nihilist, a moral nihilist. He is an epistemological nihilist. He doesn't even believe in morality. And he's making a moral case today. I mean, I don't know how this works. I really don't know. He says, I subjectively value my liberty. In one of his videos, The Moral Argument.
So there's going to be a lot of confusion about this. I don't agree with the atheist that atheism is, or that morality is subjective. But if me and him were to have a discussion about morality, and we didn't use the words morality is subjective or morality is objective, and we only used all the other words we know, I don't think we would disagree on things in general. We have the same conception of everything. Like, Like if we were asked, hey, is rape wrong? We would both say the same thing about that. About so many things. We would agree on so much shit. And then this vague is not the right word. I guess maybe vague. See, I notice when people talk about, when they say the phrases morality is subjective or morality is objective, they're often, or maybe every time really, they're not even talking about what they mean by subjective and objective. And the thing is, there's multiple definitions of those two words. And when people are arguing about these kind of things, what's often happening is the two different people each have a different definition in their head while they're talking. And this happens with a lot of our topics. So as an example of another one that's very common, people will argue about free will, and the discussion will be something like, one person's arguing, there is free will, but he means free will 1. We'll call that a free will, okay? And the other person says, no, there isn't free will, and that person means free will 2, a different definition. So they're talking about two different things, but they think they're talking about the same thing.
1 hour and 16 minutes. Tell me how, from first principles, liberty works. Is it not based and predicated on a fictitious, hypothetical, mythological state of nature detailed by John Locke and Thomas Hobbes and those individuals? Where's the scientific evidence for that? Why do you believe that? Why do you believe in equality? John Locke established his equality on the hedonistic principle and on a theory of God. Now you're an atheist. Try and find from first principles why you believe in equality. We as Muslims don't believe in second-wave feminism. Simple as that. Yeah, there's some things in Islam which are different for men than to women. Why do I have to justify myself to you? You have to justify why that equality of that Eurocentric understanding of equality of second-wave feminism in the 60s that emerged is the objective morality.
Why does he need to argue that? What if he even disagrees with that stuff? He didn't right now say that the other guy was into that stuff. By the way, I don't even know what second wave feminism is. I know what feminism is. I know they claim 4 waves. I don't know what the fuck that shit is. It's just saying basic stuff like, women are like men. And there are differences, but there's also differences between individual men. So just saying there's differences doesn't mean much. Whatever the differences are, it doesn't mean it's the whole fucking group that has that difference. Like if we say women in general are physically smaller and weaker than men, therefore they shouldn't be working in the fire, in the fire department because they can't carry people or something. Okay, well, that argument is meaningless if we're talking about, there are women who are bigger than men, physically bigger and stronger than certain men. So that argument does not help us with these scenarios. It's useless. So women and men should be treated equal, meaning we should not look at the penis or the vagina, and we should look at, in the case of a fire department who's going to work there, we should look at who's bigger and stronger and can run and can pick up people, whether they have a vagina or a penis, or neither of those.
That's you. That's an active claim that you've made. You have to substantiate it. But listen to what he says in his video, My Problem with Sam Harris's Morality. Can I finish off?
Yeah. You got a minute left.
If you go to Somalia and tell those women, why do you put those women in bags? They will accuse you of cultural imperialism. So why are you asking the women if they've been put in bags? What kind of discussion is that? What kind of sanctimonious Orientalist understanding of morality is that? You have to first prove your morality. You're a subjective moralist. You don't believe in objective morality. Don't ask me about morality. You don't believe in it. Prove it. That's an active claim. And with that, guys, I want to say one last thing, which is that he made an egregious claim in one of his videos called The Liberal Hypocrisy on Islam. He said Islam is a racist religion. And I will tell you that Islam is the only ancient religion in the world which completely negates racism. Look at chapter 49, verse 13 of the Quran. Look at the Prophet. He said there's no virtue of a black man over a white man, an Arab or a non-Arab. Now, he's got 3 options. Option 1, to retract the statement. Option 2, Yes, option 2, to provide the evidence, or option 3, face public humiliation today. And there's no fourth option. So don't make claims about morality and about Islam if you haven't even read the Islamic literature.
Fuck this asshole. So his logic is, if you're wrong about something, you should be ashamed. That's retarded. Think of how it works in science. So, for example, Isaac Newton came up with his theory of gravity. Later, 300 years later, Einstein showed where Newton was wrong. And what he showed was that Isaac Newton didn't know the limits of where his theory, worked and didn't work. And so Einstein corrected him. Should Newton have been embarrassed? No. That makes no damn sense. He should be happy. Like, suppose he's in heaven and he's looking down on Einstein. He should be happy that someone came along and improved his fucking theory. And, improved the human race by learning something new and getting closer to the truth. We should not be embarrassed. And the whole being embarrassed thing, it's very common. It comes from tribal societies that don't value truth-seeking. They value like alignment to your tribe. And in that kind of society, being wrong is seen as a bad thing. And so they try to do things like hide that they were wrong. Ayan Hirsi Ali explains it very well in one of her early books, where she explains the mindset of, she grew up partly in Somalia, and then later in adulthood she lived in is it Deutschland? I don't even know the name of the country. And what she explained was, okay, so in the Western world, I don't know if this is the most common, but the prevalent way of thinking or mindset is the scientific one, where in your tribe, you're criticizing your own tribe to try to get it to improve. We criticize our governments to try to get them to improve. We criticize our families. We criticize ourselves. In a tribal society, a non-scientific one, that's what we're talking about here, like before science, they see it as, no, we shouldn't criticize our tribe, at least not in front of people from other tribes. If we're going to criticize our tribe, it should be only with our own tribal members. But even in like in Islam's case, they don't do that. In general, you're not supposed to criticize Islam. And if you do, you start to be questioned as an ex-Muslim, which is really ridiculous, because that means there's no engine or way for things to improve. If you like this video, please hit like. Please subscribe to the channel so you can see more of it. If this helped you, this could help other people, but only if they see it. And then another thing is, in about 10 days, is a big event for me and Uniting the Cults. Uniting the Cults is a nonprofit. The goal is to remove apostasy laws worldwide. June 14th is the grand opening or launching event of the organization, where I'll be talking with 3 experts about apostasy and about the underlying things related to it and that need to get addressed in order for the apostasy issue to be solved. So please at least check into that. And if you do miss it, definitely look at it afterwards. All right. See you next time.